I love that theme song. It's a bit of a bop. What's up, everybody? Flobo Boys here for another edition of Flobo Soto Netflix. You know, this is the show where we go through the archives of Netflix originals, TV shows, movies, documentaries, all that good stuff to find some hidden gems and hopefully to help out your recommendations. If you guys have not heard, this show is available audio only over on Anchor, and that means Spotify, that means iTunes, that means Google Podcasts, and all that jazz. But the video versions are available on YouTube. If you've been listening the entire time, and you're like, I want to see this in video form, check it out at youtube.com/FloboBoys. And before I get to today's episode, I just want to say if you like the fact that I get to go through what's happening on Netflix, but want to know how I feel about comedy specials, because, I am a stand-up comedian, make sure you head up to Patreon. Patreon.com/FloboBoys. You get to have exclusive reviews, a bonus episode of this show, Flobo on Netflix, where I talk exclusively about comedy specials, because we all love to laugh and we all love to put that work on stage. At least I do. At least I would love to if the world opened back a little bit faster. So, if you guys have been following this show, very, very early on, I covered a drama action show out of South Africa called Queen Sono. And since then, I've realized that there's not going to be a season 2 of that show, which is very unfortunate because I really think that I would have been on board with that. It was actually one of the listeners of that episode that hit me up and said, hey, have you heard about Shadow? Shadow is actually the first South African Netflix original. Tell me what you think about it. So whereas Queen Sono was kind of like this crime political intrigue using different class systems and showing different walks of life, very much like another show I love, Saburo, Blood and Rome, which I should really do that episode about that at some point because I really love that show. This one here is a little bit private vigilante. I won't say private investigator because I don't think he's officially an investigator, but private vigilante working side by side, alongside, against the police to find out various crimes that's happening in that area. And the premise is pretty much something I've seen before. I just can't quite put my finger on it. Our titular character, Shadow, is someone who cannot feel pain. I don't mean that in the emotional sense. He has like a congenital analgesia, I think it's called, where his skin, he can feel pressure and he can be affected by, like, if he's like shot or if he's like shocked, he can feel it, but it doesn't hurt. So this reminds me of two things. One, my own personal experience when I had ab surgery and I had my parts of my skin re-sewn together, and there's like a weird numbing feeling all around where you can feel pressure but not actually feel the pain of it by touch. Or the James Bond movie, The World Is Not Enough, where one of the villains, the main villain, had a bullet lodged in his brain and it was pretty much killing off all of his nerve endings. So as the bullet made his way down into the brain, he was not able to feel pain. Unfortunately, it doesn't come into play as much as I thought it would be. It's a kind of I don't want to say gimmick, a kind of conceit where you can really go into like the superhero type powers and superhero type experiences and basically give us a South African Luke Cage. But thankfully, it doesn't do that. It relies on the drama of this one man who makes decisions that somehow makes things worse when it comes to solving crimes or solving up corruption, but ultimately saves the day. I want to say it's a very, very pretty show. I mean, it's dark, but it's beautifully shot. It is a lot of people on the show are pretty and attractive in their own way. Even the people who are supposed to be ugly, even the people that are supposed to be the main villains, you're not supposed to be like, you're like, oh, that guy has a really good complexion. Oh, that guy definitely exfoliates. Oh yeah, she has great hair. That guy has a good posture. It's really interesting to watch because when we watch movies here in the United States, where I'm based off, if people have been asking me that as well, I'm based here in Los Angeles. We get kind of bogged down into what's considered cute or attractive, and the reason being is that the United States, our biggest export is American culture, right? There's a reason why you can go anywhere on the planet and get a burger and fries. That's just the way we do it. So when people are in a movie, they tend to be a certain look, square jawed, usually blue eyed. That's changing for now in the cause of diversity, but that's always been the thing. In South Africa, or in Netflix's case, to do a show based in South Africa, they can be diverse, but it's still wholly South Africa. It's still quote unquote foreign to me, being here halfway across the world. So it's kind of cool to see what would be the Hollywood equivalent of a show. It's kind of like hearing on YouTube, and it's kind of going off tangent here. on YouTube, I've always wondered what does English sound like to foreign speakers, and there's a couple of videos where they take like sound clips and put them together just to show or make you feel like what English would be to someone who doesn't speak English. So it's like my language, my visual language back to Shadow, but told in a way that's specifically for that place. Look, it's a very short series. You can really bang out these episodes in a day. They're about 48 minutes apiece, and it really goes into more interpersonal communications. There isn't really a deep mystery. Yes, there's villains, and yes, storylines cross over. Yes, there's teasing of romance, and yes, you get to have a feel of what it means to be on the mean streets of, I think, Johannesburg in this case. But it doesn't necessarily have to be, or it isn't necessarily a serpentine place. You won't lose your place if you blink. At the same time, though, I don't recommend putting this on and doing other things. I know I say that a lot for a lot of the shows I review here. If it has that like put on the background ability, I don't think that's here too, because you miss a lot of the nuance in the performances because you're not getting it from the dialogue, and that's kind of one of the weaker things about this piece about Shadow. The dialogue is pretty heavy-handed. You got the villains are snarling over at the camera. Sometimes people explicitly say how they feel, and that tends to kind of spoil the moment. But the acting kind of makes up for that because it takes a lot to make what's on the written page believable. And some of the things via nonverbal communication is something to watch, something to marvel of how different body cues mean different things to these characters and what they're looking forward to. That said, though, I've totally followed Zakiya Patel, who played Sarah on the piece, and Amanda DuPont, who played Ash on this piece. I think I want to get them on one of my sister shows, New Amsterdam Radio, because their performances to me were a particular standout. So, only one season. You could pretty much watch this in an afternoon. If you haven't seen Queen Sono, I suggest watching Shadow first and then doing Queen Sono. But if you've seen Queen Sono first, like I have, no big deal. I really hope that Netflix takes more time to go with their strategy of giving us original series that's localized and having us, the normal people, go ahead. By normal, I mean us being outside of a country, going in and approaching it as we were locals as well. I think that's pretty awesome, because too far and too much, I felt like production companies made things for the American audiences, and we kind of made other people, other normal people outside, adapt to what our American sensibilities are, our American non-verbal cues, but now there's a chance to see it flip. 3% out of Brazil does that. Squid Game out of Korea, which I'm still watching, does that. I think it's cool, and it really opens up to a whole different slew of cultures, as we call cultural appreciation, not appropriation. That does it for me on this edition of Flobo Saw It on Netflix. If you are a normal person, wherever you are on the planet, and you want to see more foreign programming spoken in a way that you can understand, shown that how other cultures do certain things, like deal with their action stars, or deal with their romance, or deal with their drama, let me know. We're all fans and citizens of the globe. Hit me up at newamsterdam.com. That's KNEW Amsterdam.com, and get access to all the other shows, especially spinoffs of this show, over at Patreon, patreon.com/FloboBoys. I'm out, but let me know if it's a show you want me to cover on Flobo Saw It on Netflix.